So what I'm going to talk about and cover in this film is we're going to talk about the whole situation with gym owners, fitness centers, yoga studios, and where I live, they've taken a big hit during COVID the last 2 years. And I have lots of friends that are involved in gym ownership and running facilities, and I think they've been hit unfairly hard. And what you'll see people being lumped together and saying, oh, there was an outbreak at this gym, so we're closing all of them, and that's how we're going to handle it.
It's kind of a super confusing situation where we're just, thinking we're doing well, even being told we're doing well, and then yet here we are being closed down without any sort of evidence as to why.
Or notice.
And I have to say that most of my friends are very responsible, only concerned about health more than anything, health and wellness. So they're probably going to be more conscientious about maintaining health, making a safe environment, providing great ventilation, which they already do, spacing people out, and they do this all the time anyways.
During this pandemic, I have strictly followed your mandates, suggestions, and requirements. I work with a wide range of clients, some of whom may suffer from PTSD, various diseases and injuries.
I found it contradictory what's happening here. It's, we want to keep people safe and healthy, but we don't want them to exercise and stay fit. And as we know, a lot of the comorbidities are around causes that are because people aren't exercising and eating properly. And so there's a greater susceptibility for poor health, illness, severe illness, hospitalization, and even death because people aren't taking care of their own health. So what I want to do is talk to a friend of mine who operates a small gym facility and what he's done to stay viable as a business and how he's managed during the last 2 years of COVID restrictions. Because I do believe that these gym owners are doing whatever it takes to make sure that their clients and customers are healthy and safe. And if we have all the data and science supporting fitness ventures and just general health and wellness initiatives, we will have a healthier population and we'll get through this pandemic and any future ones in much better shape.
It's probably the most unique space you've ever been in.
Just some crazy stuff I've seen in New York City, so.
Yeah. I'm glad that we're filming it.
How's it going, man? Good. It was an interesting tour in. Okay.
Check 1, check 2, check 3, mic check.
I've been seeing what's going on locally with all the gyms and COVID in the last 2 years. And obviously I've been talking to people like yourself. I'm obviously concerned about people who have businesses and are impacted by this. I mean, how has it been for you? I guess you can start with, the early stages.
Well, the early stages were definitely scary because it was just big question mark, shutting everything down, the gyms, the restaurants, flights, everyth's going. And so at that point you're nervous. At that time I had a pregnant wife with a baby on the way, and she's also in the fitness industry. So we're like, well, where's our income going to come from? What are we going to do? There was definitely a high stress anxiety through that time, especially because when they said it, they didn't mention any sort of government funding at that time either. It was like, well, good luck, see ya. So yeah, definitely had the heart racing for a little bit there, and the 3 months there, you're kind of transitioning. Okay, what do I do? How do I help my clients now too, right? You have a client list. Okay, they still want to train, they still want to work out, they want to still find something to do, So I'm not great with tech. It's not my thing. I'm more private, personal, one-on-one. It's where I thrive. So I started just doing some Instagram videos, live Instagram videos, where I'd just, hey guys, if you show up at this time, I'll lead us through a workout. I'll do one in the morning, one in the evening. And even that got hard because then when you're leading these workouts, I was doing them. So it was double workouts every day. And so I even had to transition those. I was like, I can't do doubles, so let's make one a stretch thing in the evening for people. And if you can come to both, awesome. We'll do more mobility in the night. And then we'll focus on at-home based stuff too, right? I was trying to cater to what people would have sitting at home, maybe a chair, if they had some bands they could use, light dumbbells, things like that. That was tough. And then, got our hopes up the summer after that, because I think at one point they were like, yeah, no masks, everything seems to be good, like everything's back to normal, we're cool. Then the following winter hit, and then it was again, you're like, oh, well, what do we do? So some of that was definitely tough. I definitely lost a lot of clients through that first year. And some that just weren't comfortable even coming back into a gym environment. But at the same time, because I have a smaller gym environment, 2, 3, 4 people in here max at a time, if I do a group, and most of the time I was just doing 1 or 2, but then people are like, hey, I'd rather go there than go to a big, Gold's Gym or whatever, or, a big CrossFit center because I feel safer. There's only a few people here versus, there might be, they're spaced out, but you still have 25 people in it spaced out. Where it's like, I know he's only going to have 3 or 4. I like that it's small. I feel comfortable. I feel safe. So that helped. That was in my benefit, running a smaller kind of clinic.
In some ways, being smaller in almost like a cockroach kind of way has kind of helped because it allows you to survive and adapt?
Yeah, I think so. I think it did help in this scenario because I have friends that operate bigger gyms and it was really tough for them, because I have smaller overhead too, right? Because I'm not in a 10,000 square foot or 5,000 square foot space with a lot of equipment that is, maybe leased or whatever. So doing that was definitely in my benefit. I can't say it was ideal still, right? But for the circumstances, it did help. This last shutdown was the most interesting because of how it really just focused on gyms and restaurants. It did feel a little more political at that point than just, hey, we're just trying to make sure everybody's safe. For some, it just, they were still running flights through everywhere, doing everything. Everyone's allowed to come in, out of the country, whatever, quarantining minimal. How are they checking quarantining when people are coming in? There was all sorts of things that you go, really?
Yeah, there's certainly some hypocrisy around all this because that's what I've heard from others is listen, you're telling us you want everybody to be safe and healthy and fit, but at the same time, you're allowing these other things to happen, which aren't necessarily safe and healthy.
Yeah, exactly. So, I could see why, for me as well, I was able to keep things going somewhat, so it worked for me. I was okay, but I felt really bad for the bigger, the bike clubs or the indoor training, the group fitness stuff. Even they weren't allowed to limit their numbers. It wasn't no, you're shut down. We're not even allowing you to limit numbers. You're done. There's different size facilities. Everybody runs their operation a little bit different, spacing things out. And if people are allowed to go eat at a restaurant, why can't they go train at a gym? In general, the people who looked after themselves and were fit and healthy and taking care of themselves, eating well, sleeping well, exercising, weren't taking up too much of the hospital time, right? Or hospital beds, things like that. And for me, I'm the only person training out of here, so I could, make a few phone calls, I'm ready to go. But if you have employees and clientele and gym memberships, and there was no time to get that going, so you're kind of planning for it, but you didn't know. So tough. But for me personally with that, because I'm so small, I can kind of operate pretty easily and navigate through because there's just, it's me.
So moving forward, if you were to advise somebody making policies around this, what are some of the things we don't know what's going to happen? Is there going to be another wave? Is there going to be, but can we do this better?
I think there's always a way to do it better. I think, honestly, all the data just needs to be shared more readily. Give people data. Let them see what's going on. What are the numbers like? Who's vaccinated? What are the percentage of people in hospital that are vaccinated? Give data. If you have a high density of population that are vaccinated in Vancouver and the hospitals aren't too bad, but, Fraser Valley or wherever seems to be imploding, and they're like, well, vaccination rates are higher and people are unhealthier and there's not an active community, or you're up north, it's colder, everyone's always inside. There's a lot of factors that weigh in, but I just think data being readily accessible and just trying to be as forthright as possible and
transparent.
Honest. Transparent.
Yeah.
And I think that would, for most people, I think that's what I'd want, especially as a business owner. It's been an interesting, it feels like it's been 5 years, but it's only been 2?
Yeah, we're approaching 2, so.
approaching 2. So it's definitely probably added a few gray hairs, definitely. A few more wrinkles.
Yeah, well, hopefully
That's
next time this year or in the summer, we're good.
We're good, yeah. Hopefully this is the last wave, or, you know, enough people are vaccinated, or enough herd immunity, whatever needs to
Whatever it
happen.
is.
Hopefully it happens so we can kind of return to some sort of normalcy without worrying about, you know, shaking hands or hugging or being in close vicinity
Yeah.
to someone for more than a period of time.
Well, on that note, thank you very much for doing this.
There we go.
We'll go sanitize after.
Yeah.